I would like to thank Aunty Lola and to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that we're meeting on. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. When I was 14 years old, a psychiatrist told me to give up on the idea that I would meet normal adult milestones, hold a job, own a house, get married. And winning national awards was certainly not on the agenda then, and it still feels a bit overwhelming, frankly, now. In 30 plus years of daily struggles with the lasting impacts of complex trauma being neurodivergent and acquired brain injury, there's nothing especially useful in my case that I would attribute to service use. And a great deal of damaging experiences, I'm sorry to say, that compounded, increased and extended my stress and distress. Happily for me, after my first adult hospitalisation, I was introduced to the idea of peer work, designated lived experience work. Immediately, something clicked, and I knew this was my vocation. Having already worked for some years as an unqualified youth worker, predominantly in First Nations-led youth services, drawing heavily from my personal lived experience, I held some sense of how the system works. I managed an appointment with the executive director of the local hospital and health service and became the first paid peer worker in my district. 20 years later, I've worked in a diverse range of designated lived experience roles across settings. Spent 15 years building an internationally applied program of research, guiding lived experience workforce development, and assisting to define our discipline. I've led the writing of key national and state policy documents, including the National Lived Experience Workforce Development Guidelines, and held numerous strategic consultancies to assist practical implementation of those research findings. Most recently, using the evidence, my team and I have developed whole of organisation lived experience training for and about our workforces. The true value, I skipped a page. The training responds to a key recommendation and addresses an important gap by helping to build understanding, respect and commitment to authentic lived experience, values, principles and practice, explaining lived expertise as a discipline and fostering effective collaboration. It's a body of work I am proud of. It has often felt like an impossible task. The attitudinal barriers to truly embracing and understanding what our workforces have to offer are still significant. With this in mind, it is my privilege and my obligation to continue contributing. I'm very pleased to accept this award, not only because it acknowledges my work and the impact of that work, but also and importantly, because it acknowledges the centrality of lived experience, particularly lived experience workforce and lived expertise in moving towards a service system that genuinely meets the needs of people walking through the door. The true value of designated lived experience work is our collective knowledge. We have come together to make sense of our experiences in ways that is helpful to us, and ultimately organised that sense-making into a distinct discipline which provides a radically different way of responding to stress and distress without pathologising people's experiences, without using language, concepts or strategies that promote otherness. It is the heart-centred, natural relationship building, deep empathy and person-to-person connection that truly distinguishes lived experience. And it is these logical, experiential, learned ways of behaving and responding that makes this work so effective. Everything I do is informed and inspired by our collective wisdom. So it would be remiss of me not to thank my community and acknowledge that. I'm grateful for the many lived experience leaders who have stood beside me and contributed to the work. to those who came before us, blazing the trails we walk upon today, and the emerging and future leaders who will achieve things we cannot even imagine. Finally, it would also be remiss not to acknowledge and thank Katie and Jill from Mind for going to the effort of nominating me. I was blown away and very grateful. My friends and colleagues who have cheered me on so generously, the members of my family who have celebrated every win, and my wonderful partner in crime and lawful spouse, Sean, who listens to every new idea, provides regular and accessible debriefing every day, and holds me at 3 a.m. when I regularly can't sleep with my mind too full of ideas, supports me in everything I do. Thank you, and thank you for this honour. Appreciate it.